Welcome one, welcome all to Match Play, Episode 2 of our Spring 2013 season. I'm your host, Scott Majeski. You may remember me from High School Roundup, the most watched show in the Mon Valley. To my right is Creighton Rabs, and to my left is Zach Lamar. Boys, fresh faces, how are we doing today? Zach, Creighton, I don't care, whoever go.
I don't know how you're doing, but I'm doing okay. Zach?
I'm doing pretty well, here for my first time, so I'm ready to play with some matches.
Oh, all right. Well, let's light it up and start off with our Cal U topics. And you know what? Let's just dive into women's basketball. And they'll travel up to I-79 this Saturday to take on Mercyhurst after beating the Clarion Golden Eagles.
Well, this almost has the makings of a trap game because you're looking at Mercyhurst, and then next Wednesday you got to go back up 79 to face Edinburgh. Then you come home next Saturday, you're facing Gannon, and then you got to travel to IUP. So you've got what has the makings of a trap game because Mercyhurst, they're not that good. I mean, they haven't really been good since Amy Ashinsky graduated 2 years ago. So, but I'm confident California can win, but they got to watch the trap because remember last year Mercyhurst actually beat Edinburgh at their gym. So. Buyer beware, Cal.
Yeah, the MAC is a tough place to play at, Zach.
Yeah, MAC might be a tough place to play, and I like what you said about being a trap game in Creighton. But Cal, I think, is going to be prepared. They are building some momentum here. They were tied with Clarion at half in their last game, but they came out on a big run, holding Clarion to 19 points. So I think they're going to use that momentum and carry it on into Mercyhurst. And like you said, in the games after against Edinburgh, IUP, Gannon, some of the tougher competition. And although Mercyhurst might not be the best team, they're still going to bring their A game. But I expect Cal to go in there with their A-plus game and get the victory. Yeah,
Stephanie Michael having herself one heck of a season so far for the California Vulcans, just knocking down threes left and right. Chelsea McKnight also having a good game. They only got 10 players, so we'll see. The MAC is a tough place to play. Let's move on to the other team of basketball at Cal. That's the men's basketball team. And let's just say, what a thriller win on Wednesday night against the Clarion Golden Eagles. Down by 13 at one point with about 10 minutes to go in that second half, Zach. They were able to claw their way back in. And Keith Lowe, wow.
Like you said, able to claw their way back in. You and I announced it on WCIL. We saw it ourselves. Down 15 points halfway mark in the second half. Keith Lowe with 26 points. Tynell Fortune with 14 in the second half. And they kept their foul troubles down in the second half, and they were able to propel themselves back into the game and win by 5 points over a Clarion team that, although they don't have the best record, they came out with a fast tempo, good pace, and they gave everything they had. And the standout performer that they had in that game was Calvin Edwards. I think he had 19 points in the game, and their big guy that they had to watch before the game was Mike Kromka, their 6'6" center, who averaged almost a double-double in the season. They held him relatively small numbers, but Calvin Edwards brought it to them in that game, but Cal escaped with the win.
And here's the thing about that game. You're talking 15 points down with 10 minutes left, and then you start hitting the baskets. And then the thing that stood out to me was the crowd got into it when it started the rally. Now, it's great to have the Mon Mob there. I mean, it's great to have a student section there, but they just bring it all 40. That said, that game told so much about this Cal team that they could rally against an inferior opponent. Like earlier in the year, they blew an 11-point lead to Mansfield with 6 minutes left at home. So let's hope that this is a big turning point for them because it's not going to get easy for them. I mean, Mercyhurst and Edinburgh right ahead of them in the standings, and they got to go back-to-back against them on the road this week.
Real quick, one-word answer. Do they win at Mercyhurst on Saturday?
Yes.
No.
All right. Moving on to the swimming team. They find their way into the top 25 USA Today poll, getting themselves at number 24. And the swimming team without Melissa Gates making their way in the top 25.
I mean, when it comes to swimming, I mean, the national rankings, it's a pretty cool barometer. Make no mistake about it. But the thing I think you focus at here at Cal is a PSAC tournament coming up later this month out in Mechanicsburg. And realistically, you look at who's ahead of them. I mean, Clarion and Westchester have been the top two teams in women's swimming almost since before you guys were born.
Yeah.
I mean, Westchester's fifth in the country. You can't, and it would take almost a miracle for them not to blow out Clarion in second. But I think the big challenge can be, can California get this battle Clarion for second? I kind of like their chances this year.
Yeah, I like their chances too. And like you said, Scott, Melissa Gates, their big name performer, she's gone this year. So the team has to step up as a whole this year. And now that they're ranked, I think they'll use that momentum to continue on to the PSAC tournament. Like you said, Westchester, Clarion, they are big powerhouse names in swimming. But California, they've been there. They're, I think, number 3 in the PSAC. They're only one of 6 all-women's teams to be ranked nationally. So that has to give them a little bit of positive feelings as they go towards the PSAC tournament.
Go. And if trust me, I'm from back east. I covered Westchester athletics for a couple of years, so that's probably where I get all my knowledge from. But they have, I mean, their swim program, I mean, it's just extensive, and that's why they've been so good nationally in the PSAC level.
Well, swimming always a fun sport to get out and watch. So don't get out and watch them whenever you get a chance to on a free weekend. But now we move on to the fan topic. You can send us your fan topics at Facebook. Just go to California University Television or tweet us at @CUTV_PA with your fan topics. But since we don't have any, I came up with a fan topic for these guys. And because you're both first years here on California, what's been your favorite Vulcan sports moment so far from September 2012 to present day, February 1st, 2013? Oh, it's actually Zach.
My favorite moment, I did not cover the game for CUTV, but I was in the stands. My first Coal Bowl experience. And seeing,
what a one it was.
Seeing Cal, they had the lead at halftime, and then they blew it. And they finally got back a big 80-yard touchdown pass by Peter Lawlick. And Cody Newsom missing the extra point. The fan section around me just deflated after he missed that. Mm-hmm. But then the onside kick, getting it back, having it bounce off and get some lucky bounces there, and then getting a second chance for Cody Newsom to get the game-winning field goal to win the game and win the Coal Bowl again. That's a big feeling for Cal, not only as the football team, but as a university, to beat your big-time rival, and to show that on your home field, you won't be beaten by your rival.
I think, well, you steal my thunder. Thanks a lot. I think, I'd have to say my memorable moment this year was first road trip with the crew this year. We went out to Kutztown.
What a game
Second,
that was.
It was like 28-0. I believe your boy Stoops is out. He's basically saying, they could come back, and sure enough, Kutztown did. So we're all, but I mean, that was just, you go out to a big lead, and then they come back, and then Lawlick again with the last-minute heroics. It just amazes me, quite frankly, that Cal was able to escape Kutztown with a win, and that was with a healthy Kevin Morton.
Yeah, that was one heck of a fun game to cover there up in Kutztown. The IUP won. The football team had a lot of memorable games this year. But that last Wednesday game against Clarion for men's basketball probably ranks up there pretty high as well. That's round 1. Round 2 coming your way next. So stay tuned. Match play. Regional topics coming your way next. Welcome back to Match Play, Segment 2, Round 2, whatever you want to call it. It's the Pittsburgh Regional topic. Creighton Rebs to my right, Zach Lamar to my left. I'm your host, Scott Majeski. Let's just dive into the Pittsburgh topics, and let's go with Pittsburgh Penguins, ladies and gentlemen. They beat the New York Rangers last night 3-0 in Madison Square Garden. They've had the Rangers number in the past couple years. Who is your MVP and LVP is what we'll be talking. That's least most valuable player. And we'll start with Creighton for most and least.
I'd say right now I'm going to go off the board a little bit for MVP. I'd have to say Vaucoon, just the way he stood up last night, and I think he can really light a fire under Marc-Andre Fleury, and you could have the potential where you have that two-headed goalie situation. Are we going to have to try and beat Vaucoon? Are we going to have to try and beat Fleury? So there's that. Now, least valuable player, a part of me wants to say Tyler Kennedy, but you got some of the lower line defensemen. You could probably throw them into that category too. I mean, sometimes you wonder, hey guys, it's okay to play defense. And dishonorable mention to the power play. Say for last night maybe, it's like, guys, take some shots in the power play, not a hard concept.
For my most valuable player, I'm going to have to go with the big name. I think the #1 hockey player in the entire world, Evgeny Malkin. He may not be putting up the big stats. He's getting the assists. Okay. With James Neal on his line, James Neal's the goal scorer now on the Malkin line, and Malkin's giving him the assists. He's generating playmaking ability. Now, for the least valuable player, I'm going to go with your dishonorable mention and say the power play unit as a whole. Okay. Over the last 3 games, dating back to Winnipeg, they are 1 for 15 on the power play. And that's just not going to get the job done in the NHL, where the power play, you get a lot of your points in the game. So, that being said, Neal, Malkin, Crosby, whatever the combination of players they have out on the ice for the power play, they have to get the job done.
Yeah, and I like both of your guys, especially with the Volkun. You got the two-headed monster goaltending, and the least valuable going to the power play. They're just lacking confidence right there, in my opinion. Well, the Pittsburgh Power, yes, I'm a huge Pittsburgh Power fan, so every time I am hosting, there will be a Pittsburgh Power question.
You might be the only one
on this show. There actually are a lot of fans, just they're not recognized as much as they should. Cajun in seasoning. We're going down to the Bayou. We're getting Jordan Jefferson now as our quarterback, Zach.
Jordan Jefferson, I think, is going to be a big pickup for this team. Last year, they went 5-13, finished 4th in the East. And I don't have a lot of experience with the AFL. Being from Georgia, the Georgia Force, always not big, relatively known, had some winning seasons. But Jordan Jefferson had led the LSU Tiger team to the national championship game, then went through the NFL with the Bucks, then the CFL with Montreal Alouettes, but only as a practice squad guy. So I think he's going to get in there with the Pittsburgh Power, maybe steal the starting role. He can have a big arm, throw it down the field. He can run if need be, had over 1,000 rushing yards in his career at LSU. So I think that added dimension of the offense to the Pittsburgh Power team is going to help them a lot to garner more than the 5 wins they had last season after the 9 they had in their inaugural season.
All right, I'll be the first to admit, having relocated out from Philadelphia, I'm not an expert on the AFL, but knowing a little bit about Jordan Jefferson and reading up on him before we went on the air, there's some character issues. While he was at LSU, was arrested for an assault charge. He recently pled down to a misdemeanor. Is on probation. He was also arrested on a drug charge while he was down in Louisiana, and that was the same case which ensnared Tyrone Matthew and a couple other LSU players. So, quite frankly, he's going to be on a very short leash, even by AFL standards. So he needs to shape up and stop acting like a knucklehead.
Yeah, and the Power will look to bounce back this year. And, it's a fun game to go to, so everybody should go out and support the Power because Lynn Swan is trying to build a great program. And just for record, Georgia Force is a very good team in arena football, and the Philadelphia Soul are very respected in the Arena Football League.
Yeah, they won it all a few years ago.
Yep, let's go to Tyler Boyd talk. Clareton, Black Hills Conference, and he's not really sure where he wants to go to school right now. Verbally committed to Pitt, but now he's thinking WVU. Now he's down at Tennessee. Creighton, this guy doesn't really know where he wants to go to school.
I think you're getting a lot of outrage from Pitt fans because, you verbally committed to Pitt. You're coming up to our school, and now you're turning your back on us. First of all, remember the Pitt fans, let me remind you, you don't fully commit until you sign that letter of intent. Okay, yep. So at this point, something had to pop up. Maybe he just saw that Street's coming back for his senior year, so he may not be getting the time. Yeah. And then the system down in Morgantown is more suited to what he wants to do. So there's that. His mom told I believe it was a Tribune Review the other day that she doesn't trust West WVU's academics, but there were some stats that showed that WVU is better academically than Pitt. So maybe she just doesn't like the Mountaineers. I don't know.
I think Tyler Boyd will eventually end up staying in Pitt. Touching on what you said with the academic standards, the academic progress rate that the NCAA uses, West Virginia and Pitt are basically the same over the last 3 years. Yeah. In Tennessee, I don't really see them fitting into him at all because they already got, I think, the #1 or #2 wide receiver prospect in the nation. So I think they'll be set at wide receiver. But I think Pitt, being the hometown kid, Boyd will stay there knowing that Pitt produces a lot of talent going into the NFL, and I think that's what Boyd can be one day, an NFL talent receiver, much like John Baldwin or Larry Fitzgerald was previously at Pitt.
Yeah, and he also has a lot of his friends from Creighton going to Pitt.
You know, I mean, would you rather play in the ACC or the Big 12? I mean, that could factor in too.
That is the question. Would you rather play in front of 40,000 or hundreds and thousands in the Big 12? Let's talk some Steelers right now. They're getting a new special teams coach, a former assistant for the Redskins. Tell me about him, Zach.
Well, Danny Smith is a Pittsburgh native, and he coached the Redskins special teams for the last few years. The Steelers actually tried to hire him in 2010, but they were denied access to him. And now finally they got a new special teams coach after this year. Special teams just fell apart. Son Sweezum had a career year, only missing, I think, 3 field goals. But the return units and the coverage units were downright awful. Amos Jones darted to Arizona because I think he knew he was going to be fired after the season anyways. And after firing Al Everest in the beginning of the season, I just thought that was a terrible move because Al Everest's special teams coverage units weren't the best, but they weren't the worst. The Steelers were 16th in coverage last season, and the Redskins were 12th, only averaging less than a yard better on returns. So let's see how Danny Smith can incorporate his system into Pittsburgh now.
And you absolutely have that. I mean, the coverage wasn't that great, but how many of those returns were called back by penalties?
Truth.
I mean, that's not always the coach's fault. You can coach a player until you're blue in the face, okay? And let's be realistically, the coaches aren't the ones committing the penalties. That would be the players. I mean, it wouldn't matter if it. And speaking of Smith, he's got some PSAC ties. He played at Edinburgh. He coached up at Edinburgh, so it's a good homecoming for him. But I think at the end of the day, it's not as important, the coaches. It's up to the players to decide. You can't fire the players, but you can fire a coach. And related coaching, Jack McMill Jr., whose dad was a legendary coach at Boston College, he's now the offensive line coach for the Steelers. So.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Well, the Steelers are set at special teams at long snapper with the great veteran Greg Warren long snapping for them. So special teams is fine in the long snapping department. Greg Warren for MVP every single year for the Steelers. When we return, 73 round 3 coming your way with the national topics. America's next.
CUTV is always on the air online. Like us on Facebook for upcoming events and status updates. Follow us on Twitter at CUTV_PA for behind-the-scenes exclusives. For streaming news and sports coverage, subscribe to our YouTube channels. CUTV social media. It's always online.
Well, we're playing with matches, and it's round 3, and things are heating up between Creighton Rabs and Zach Lamar. Fresh new faces here to the match play scene. I'm your host, Scott Majeski, and there's a sort of a big game happening on Sunday in America, and it's called the Super Bowl between the Ravens and the 49ers. There's some storylines to this game, but I don't really know how big and important they are, Creighton.
I'm rooting for a double forfeit. I mean, seriously. You don't want to see San Francisco getting their 6th ring. And you don't want to see the Baltimore Ravens, or as my Twitter friends call them, the Ratbirds, you don't want to see them winning a Super Bowl. So I think at the end of the day, first of all, I'm going to take San Francisco because, number one, I trust Colin Kaepernick at quarterback more than I trust Joe Flacco. Okay. And, I mean, I can live with San Francisco winning their 6th title with the knowledge that Steelers Nation knows, hey, we were there first. Welcome to the club, 49ers. I wouldn't mind seeing Ray Lewis bawling his eyes out after the Ratbirds lose.
For me, I'm going to take the 49ers 31-21.
Got a prediction.
Yeah, prediction there. I just think the Ravens defense, although Ray Lewis has played inspired this postseason, and some are even predicting he'll win MVP again in this game, I don't think they're going to be able to stop Kaepernick. They had troubles without Ray Lewis against RG3, and honestly, Ray Lewis in the Ravens defense makes them a worse unit. And Colin Kaepernick is honestly a better passer than rusher than RG3 is, but the 49ers have more weapons than the Redskins do. Frank Gore is probably going to be the best running back that the Ravens face, except for Arian Foster this season. And Kaepernick, I think, is just going to light up the Ravens defense and be able to put up a sizable margin for them. And interesting note, the Harbaugh brothers never lost coming off a bye in the playoffs or regular season. So let's see They both prepare their teams well coming off the bye. Let's see who prepares them better.
All right, and you went 49ers?
49ers.
Who are you going prediction-wise?
I'm going 49ers. I think it was we'll go 31-24. And I guess to touch up on one of your points there, that's the thing with San Francisco. I mean, you remember the Atlanta game? If I'm not mistaken, there were other playoff games. They had to come from behind.
Yep.
Against Seattle. So they're a team that just doesn't quit. They just rally and they find ways to win, and that's what good teams do.
Yeah, both teams have been getting the job done this season and in the postseason. Let's move on to LeBron James, who there are a lot of rumors going around the world that LeBron James, King James, might be returning to his original kingdom in Cleveland, Ohio, to play with the Cavaliers. This will be down in maybe a couple years. But Zach, is this a real possibility?
I think it is a real possibility. LeBron James still lives in Cleveland in the offseason, and knowing that, he always says he loves Cleveland still. The fans may not like him, but he loves the Cleveland area. And after the 2014 season, he can opt out of his contract with the Miami Heat. And by then, Dwayne Wade's getting older. All the other players around them, Ray Allen, Juwan Howard, if he's still with them, they're old. And Chris Bosh isn't always, the big three. They're the big two most of the time. Yeah. So I think LeBron James is going to go back home and try and get a title with the team that he came up with, grew up with around him. And although he is the chosen one, a great quote that I like, Dan Vitale on ESPN.com, he is the chosen one who chose to leave. So let's see if he'll be able to come back.
He may want to come back, but the question is, if you're the owner of the Cavaliers, do you want him back? Remember, when LeBron left Cleveland, basically the owner of the Cavs all but threw him under the bus over the decision process that had LeBron leaving Cleveland for South Beach. And never mind just the owner. I can probably guarantee you the hundreds or so of Cleveland Cavaliers fans who are left, who actually probably still care about this team, you think they're going to welcome him back with open arms? Like 3 years ago, hey, we're burning your jerseys. Later, bro. And now you think they're going to welcome him back? I seriously doubt it. I mean, it's a nice little rumor. I think it was really fuel to the fire after Rudy Gay was traded. I believe Gene Wojciechowski from Yahoo Sports had an interesting thread that the era of the super team is ending, and maybe LeBron will take advantage of it.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I'm sure they won't welcome him up in opening arms when he walks in, but if he brings the championship to Cleveland, they'll all welcome him back for sure. A-Rod's in the news, and so is a lot of other baseball players who are taking drugs. This is PED testing now happening in the Major League Baseball world, and baseball has just been the subject of steroid talks, HGH, performance enhancers, whatever you want to call it. What does Major League Baseball need to do and how do they have to handle this?
First of all, Bud Selig and the Players Union have to come up with a much stronger testing plan, because if these reports are true, and right now, just remember, these are all allegations. And the source of this report is basically, it's a newspaper similar to Pittsburgh City Paper. I mean, not saying that in a derogatory way. It's just, it is what it is. But basically, it just shows that A-Rod is a liar. He goes on ESPN and says, I only used between 2001 and 2003. And now you have evidence that he's been using between 2009, the year the Yankees won the World Series, I might add, to 2012. So A-Rod's credibility right now is pretty much non-existent in my eyes.
I don't think this story has to deal with A-Rod as much. I think it has to do more with the MLB. I think with their drug policies and their drug testing, either every player must do it or you have to get rid of it completely. Steroids, this is the steroid era, and it's not going to go away for a long time unless you proactively do something about it. And Bud Selig's not doing enough, in my mind. He'll be gone in a couple years, so we'll see if the next commissioner can bring in a new system to hopefully change the game and take away the PEDs and HGHs away from the game. We might not see some big home run maulers anymore, but the pitching aspect of the game is becoming bigger now, and I think with the drug testing, that'll help it as the pitching evolves more into the future.
All right, well, always interesting stuff developing in Major League Baseball and around the place. And, of course, A-Rod's always up there because he plays in the biggest market in baseball in New York City. Moving on, the 2012 first overall pick in the NHL draft. Now Yakupov is making a name for himself with some crazy sellies where against the Kings, just to force overtime, skated like he scored the Game 7 clinching cup goal against the LA Kings earlier this year, and then against the Phoenix Coyotes with an overtime winner, did the bring it to me sign, forcing Phoenix to send their enforcers after him. Do you like this in the game?
I like celebrating, but when you're 19 years old, you kind of remind me of Bryce Harper in MLB. You're getting cocky, kid. I can understand you're doing your Theo Fleury impression across the eyes, getting down on your knees after celebrating going to overtime. The one that bugs me the most is the Phoenix one. Because the Phoenix player, I think Derek Norris, come get me, bro. He came and got him, slugged him right in the face. I would have done the exact same thing, saying, that's my ice. You can't do that on my ice. I know you're excited because he's on your fantasy team. Yakupov getting you your Mother Russia team. But I think that this will be bad for the game. Eventually, I think his act will clean up. Maybe he'll contend for the Lady Bing trophy. Who knows? But as a 19-year-old rookie, you need to cut the crap, kid, and get in there, just score some goals and do what you need for your team to win.
I think maybe I'm a little old school at this, but act like you've been there before. You're a rookie. You score a goal. Big whoop. Do you see Sidney Crosby going bonkers after a goal? No. You usually see him showing some love to his teammates. You see Gino going nutty after he scores a goal? No. Those are just, and it's prevalent in almost every sport. You look at baseball. You got guys that'll go into these poses after they hit home runs, which turn out to be singles. Then you get football. You do a stupid dance after you tackle a guy 3 yards beyond the line of scrimmage. Dude, act like you've been there before. Shut up. Play the game. Thank you very much.
Well, I like it. I like to see fun out there, but I do agree. Act like you've been there before, but I still think it's kind of cool when a 19-year-old scores a big-time goal here and there against the defending Cup champs. Guys, finally, as you know, I don't pick a winner anymore here on Match Play, so you fans have to vote for these two guys on Facebook at www.facebook.com/CUTV, as you see on your bottom screen. Vote for these two guys for the winners. And real quick, guys, your final thoughts on your first Match Play. I don't care who goes first.
I think it was a good experience. Nice to play with some matches against Creighton. Both our first time here. Hopefully, in the future, I'm a freshman. I think you're a junior, you said, so may not have a lot of time left, only a couple years. But I think we'll have some nice fun here on the set.
Yeah, I only got about 3 or 4 semesters left, Zach, but I'll tell you right now, this is a blast, It's just, I'm almost speechless. I've been a little nervous about this the whole week. I got to announce my first hoops game last night with Scoots, and that was fun. But this is probably a little more nervous because you got to think on the fly. So I think this is going to be a fun experience. And this is the biggest reason I came out here to Cal, to tell you honestly.
All right, well, this has been Match Play Episode 2 of the Spring Semester 2013. I'd like to thank everybody in the production studio and my 2 co-hosts. Once again, vote for them on Facebook.com/CUTV. There will be a poll up, and we will see you next time for another edition of Match Play.